All right, so we made it to the last session for the advanced class. So we'll be talking about client resistance. So this is something you may face as you're going through your training and your coaching sessions. So we'll dive into this. So we're going to look at some of the reasons coaching clients often resist personal growth and change. We're going to dive into that. And as always, we're starting out with the coaching scenario. So here we go. So after brainstorming some ideas with your client, uh, I ain't get to change. I'm gonna change to a guy's name. Let's see. After brainstorming some ideas with your client, uh, Sam, he still seems resistant to risk or change. You feel very frustrated with his progress. The repeated story that he shares is that he failed at something 10 years ago and it crushed his confidence. It has hindered him from following through with his coaching goals. In his discussions with you, he tends to become emotional about it and goes into overwhelmment. How would you proceed with him in future sessions?
So you're asking me how would I
Yeah, yeah. So just
oh,
just reading through it, how would you proceed with, the next session, meeting up? You just
that's a
you take your
good one.
time. You take your time.
So I might would ask, considering something that happened 10 years ago, I don't know if this is the right step, but I know knowing me, Tony would approach it, I might say, so is there a way, what do you think what do you think that is keeping you from not moving forward?
Mhm.
But that might go more into like a counseling type question.
Mhm. Yep. So if they need counseling, what's your next step?
If they need counseling,
Yeah, yeah.
I would say hopefully I would know someone, or I would try my best to refer them to someone.
Yep.
Yeah, I would never leave them I would never just leave them hanging. If they needed counseling, I would even if, send them to someone I know, or if I did know anyone, I would help them do the due diligence themselves. If they weren't even motivated to do it, I might take it upon myself to just do it for them and then present it to them, and then it's up to them to run with it.
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
Yeah,
Because yeah,
yeah, I never.
there's a lot of times you may face something like this where it's just
Yeah,
like they continually not meeting those goals that you set. This could be like, just think this could be like 3 months of like, oh, they keep on trying, you keep on setting these goals over 3 months and they're not making no progress. And then, what's your next step after that? If this is if you're looking at this as 3 months, 3 months, or it could be 6 months, 6 months of this. It depends on how much, you can, your patience is.
and I will be honest with you, unofficially, because without the certifications, put everything aside, I've actually been in these situations
Mm,
before dealing with friends. So
yeah.
with me, I'm the type of person, and it's only through the grace of God,
Mm,
that if I'm with you, I'm with you. So
mm,
even if it's 3 to 6 months, knowing me, I probably wouldn't still give up on that person.
yeah,
I'd be praying and saying, Lord, okay, how can this is in your hands?
yeah,
I'll remain here and be a main support system and do what's needed but everything that we've exhausted every avenue, we exhausted every idea, and it seemed like there's nothing happening. So I would just go into prayer and be like, Lord, I'm at my ends wits, but however, I still want to stand by him. I still want to be a support system, and I still want to know that he has a friend and someone that supports him. But as far as solving the problem or coming up with a solution, I don't I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Is
he was
there?
still, yeah, feel
Yeah,
my support.
yeah. And that's the thing. It's just like, yes, you can be there as uh a friend, you know, and you could be there as like just a, a person that's supportive of them. But as the coach, they're not making any progress. You got that. I'm talking about you got that hat on. You got the coach hat on,
Okay, okay,
and they're not making no progress. It's just like, all right, maybe we need a new coach. Maybe we need
okay.
counseling, that type of thing. But no, you still, stay in touch, as a friend, as support system, all that stuff. But like you were saying before, you may have to hand them off to somebody that God is saying, you're gonna be in prayer about it, and you pray, praying about, okay, who to hand them off to, who can, possibly help them. I've done
Yeah.
all I can with this person.
Because it may be
Yeah,
a season where one planted, one watered, and God gives increase.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah, you don't know how he's gonna do it. You don't know how God's gonna do it.
Mm.
Exactly. So, but no, I like your perspective. I like this perspective.
Thank
But at the same time, that's like support and a friend. But then you got to think of like when you a coach, you want to see, you want that progress to go, move forward. And they're like, you don't want nobody to be so long, being stagnant in the same place or moving backwards,
exactly. No,
you
I get.
know.
Yeah, you're right.
And so as a good coach, you like, okay, they're not moving forward with me, but maybe I should link up with another coach or link up with, counseling, that type of thing. Because you want them to move forward. You care about them,
Oh,
So
yes.
that's the caring thing. That's the caring thing to do. Somebody stuck for that long, you're like, okay, how can we get them moving? But at the same time, like you said, you're gonna pray about it. And God's gonna lead you.
Mhm.
If God says no, you're the coach, you're gonna stick with them, then that's what's gonna be. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
saying the other perspective of it though. The other perspective is
and
you
even if I had to send them to another coach or a counselor, I would still like to be there and know how those sessions are
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yep, yep, yep. And it's unique, it's unique scenarios. You don't, it may be a thing where like, yeah, you may stay friends with this person, be a support system, and it may be a thing where like, okay, they they're just, with you because you're right in front of them type of thing. And then, you know, they might just be like, okay, I'm just gonna move on to this other person for help. You may not hear from for a while, and it's fine.
Hmm.
There's different scenarios, different people. So, but no, good, good. That's a good scenario. All right. So resisting, be aware. Any client behavior that exhibits a reluctance to participate in the task of coaching as set forward by the coach is resistance. That's what I'm saying. So somebody's stagnant, somebody's moving backwards, no progress going forward for a long period of time. That's called resistance. If a client doesn't have buy-in of the process or a belief that they can do it, they are resistant. If what you are doing with the client isn't working, then look to see where you can change your approach. And that's the other way too. It's just like, okay, we tried this way, kind of change your coaching style, throughout the process too. Regrouping, regrouping, obstacle management. You can't and shouldn't try to change your client. You can only change how you interact with your client and hope that change happens. Either we don't have a technique to manage what is going on in the coaching interactions, or we don't understand enough about the client's world to understand what they are, why they are responding the way they are.
Try to change your client. You can only change. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's by learning, going to the portal and reading the book, you'll learn different techniques and ways to go about it. Because even in sports, it's like it's good. You might have one go-to move.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about mainly basketball. You can have one go-to move, but like Kevin Durant, it's good to have multiple things in your arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And just this, think of this. Like you can ask for help. You can ask for help. You know how doctors have they got a database and they have a chat where they can ask each other things. That's just like the coaching, like coaching community. So don't be afraid to ask another coach, for advice as well. When
Okay.
somebody's stuck. That's something too. Yeah. And that's how, I mean, that's like basketball too, right there. Because nobody is just, just learning and for themselves. A lot of basketball players are meeting with each other, teaching each other, different moves and stuff. And they got training coaches themselves who the training
Hmm.
coaches are probably meeting with other training coaches to, pick their brains about different things. So just know you have a network you could reach out to, if you have a difficult client
Okay.
or they're stuck, if you out of ideas. We're constantly trying to get better, in our fields, definitely.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then connecting your strategy. It is important for coaches to connect with clients on the basis of the client's reality rather than put an emphasis on the coach's agenda. So, in other words, the coach wants the client to make better choices, but without connecting with the client's perceptions in the beginning of the process, the coach might facilitate more resistance rather than less. So,
Okay.
yeah, the coach client relationship is key to helping the client move forward. Clients are less resistant if they feel connected with the coach.
And it makes me think of someone has said, and I'm sure you've heard it too, is a common saying, people don't want to know how much you know, they want to know how much you care.
Exactly. Exactly. That all authenticity, being authentic, not
Hmm.
being, just being a robot and just reading from a script all the time. But you got to be able to look your client in the eye and truly hear and actively listen what they're saying, repeat things back, like actually trying to dive in, like you said, care. They want you to care. They want you to see that you see their heart, when they're talking, you know.
Hmm.
So exactly. Trusting is another obstacle uh, right here. So if coaching is to be successful, clients must be willing to discuss the issue, examine it, and make plans. If clients will not disclose their inner wants, actions, feelings, and thinking, change is very difficult. So somebody that stays closed off, you want to be able to make them comfortable and be trustworthy for them to share what they need to share with you. Um, in the context of a safe, trusting relationship, they are more likely to disclose such information. After clients lower their defenses, they can then more freely discuss their inner thoughts and feelings. After this occurs, the coach can help them to conduct an honest self evaluation. Your clients are like this because, we are too. Each of
Yeah.
us are like this, where we have to,
Hmm.
gain that trust to be even more open. That's like with most people.
I mean, yeah, and you're right. It's like even a coach may need a coach.
Exactly. Exactly. Which I have one. I have a coach, you know. I was like, man, I need a coach. I
Yeah.
was able to
Yeah.
I got a coach myself, and it's really good, man. It is really good.
And I'm sure it brings that thing full circle because it brings accountability all the way around.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, my coaches keep me accountable on certain things. And I'm over here like, man, I didn't get to do this, X, Y, and Z, but I got to do, A, B, and C. I didn't get to do this. So there's things, nobody's perfect, man. Nobody's perfect, but it's good to have that, that accountability. No matter what position you're in, what you're doing, it's good to have accountability.
Yeah, yeah, because just like you pouring into somebody, you need somebody. We as coaches need someone pouring into us as well.
Exactly. Because we got everybody has blind spots. We all got
Yeah.
blind spots. You need other people to point those blind spots out and to help you out. You know, especially, you're saying you're talking to different people and you're telling them about, your life and all that. And they may be like, wait, why'd you react that way? Why'd you, you know, do it that way? You could have done it this way. That type of thing. Just give you a different perspective. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then timing. So be aware if a coach pushes the client to change before that person is ready, resistance will be the likely result. So instead, coaches should listen to the client and focus on not creating resistance and not fostering defensiveness. Timing is very important. And you brought it up too, prayer and letting God lead the session. You not, stepping in, not your will on doing things with the timing. Only it's best to let God lead you. Like, okay, when He prompts you to do certain things or whatever. Uh, but yeah, because coaches care, they tend to rush to their clients or their their clients' circumstances. Clients will reveal their comfort levels if you pay attention. Step back and allow change to happen. So that goes, you heard that saying, read the room.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what this is. Read the room. If
Hmm.
clients getting uncomfortable with, talking about certain things, don't push them. Don't push them too
Hmm.
much. There's times where you just gotta, okay, I'm gonna back off from that subject right now. You may bring it up subtly, throughout the other sessions.
Yeah, but you will see it in their facial expressions, you will see it in their body language, what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, compelling strategy. So, seek emotional, compelling reasons for client change. Don't waste time trying to create change through logic. If people changed because of logic, nobody would have bad habits,
Yeah.
tugging, temptations, or wasted time. When people make changes in their life, they do it because they have an emotional, compelling reason. Try to assign meaning or significance to the change in order to create strong emotions. Meaning is highly motivational. So that's what we talked about before. Is just like connecting that why. Why are we doing this vision? Why are we doing this strategy? Which leads to why these action steps need to be done. These small little action steps need to be done to get to that emotional vision that they're connected to. So can you think of any compelling questions you can ask your client?
Compelling questions I can ask my client.
Well,
And it's like,
if somebody says I need to eat better, I need to eat better. What compelling question could you ask?
oh, in what way?
Mm,
Because I mean, to me, a lot of times I look at it, I'm assuming, okay, they need to cut out some sweets, they need to cut out some fats and stick with more fruits and vegetables.
mm,
But that's more of a general assumption, but everybody's perspective is different. So even if you kind of know where they're going, I still feel it's good to let it come from their mouth first,
Yeah.
just so we're for surely on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another one towards that, you can say like, how would eating better change your life?
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah. How would it change your life? And then that's like, they be like, oh man. Then they start, you just let them talk. You just let them talk. Yeah. You just keep diving into that.
And I think that's one of that's kind of like where I get stuck at. It's like, okay, I always want to give advice or want to, but that's not coaching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You let them lead the discussion. Let them lead it. Unless it's going down in a negative way, into a pit. You got to turn the light on, pull them out of there. If
Yeah.
they start talking and just going going down, you got to pull them out of there.
Redirected.
Yep, yep. And then coach and treat resistance with respect and understanding. So don't buy into the client's blame game. Don't buy into and encourage excuses. So that's those action items. They got all these excuses like when you're checking back, like did you do this? Did you, talk to this person? Did you write down that plan that we talked about? No, no, my somebody my brother got in the way. I had all these late nights and I couldn't get to it. Don't buy into those excuses. Watch for limiting thinking causing resistance. Watch for pain avoidance causing resistance. Watch for lack of clarity causing resistance. And watch for specific fears causing resistance. You just gotta look out for these things. And then calming your emotional state as a coach is extremely important. You have to be calm, even keel. So if you are impatient or frustrated, it will be mirrored to your client. Are you one of those guys that your emotions are on your face? Like you can't hide your emotions?
I used to be that way. I'm actually getting better. I haven't
Okay.
mastered it, but I'm getting better now.
That's good. That's good. But yeah, it is important to keep on your coaching hat and stay calm. Remember, as I mentioned, you're gonna have your coaching hat on, have that coaching hat on, and staying calm. Uh,
Mhm.
Identify what the client needs, what is important to them. Stay with them until they are confident to follow through. Lack of clarity in each step will keep them from moving. So you gotta constantly check in with them, making sure they understand. They like they completely understand the vision that they've built. They completely understand the strategy that they built. Completely understand and are clear on the actions that they're supposed to be taking. That they came up with, and that they'll be committed to. And so you want them to be confident in that. Uh, but yeah, evaluate and review what went wrong and how can it be fixed. And just know clients may irritate you. You know that may happen. They may irritate you, but you have to stay even keel, stay calm. Because like you said, there's times where like you know the advice that you want to give. You like, man, why they going this direction? You're just thinking like, okay, what questions can I ask to get them to going in the right direction? Let's do a whole brainstorming session for an hour. That may be what you have to do to get them to that point. So whatever, like you said, whatever you got to do, I know you'll do it to get them progressing forward.
Hmm.
So what's some things you could do to keep calm while coaching? What things can you think of you could do?
Uh, I would say one of the things that has really helped me out, obviously, is prayer, but just
Yeah.
from a more practical, I'd say, standpoint, is sometimes you have to just prepare yourself when you're by yourself.
Mm,
Sometimes it's even like even I say again, even in sports, I mean, that's why they have practice sessions before the actual game. So you can practice what you need to do in the game. Now, a lot of times what you practice is not going to always materialize in the game because in practice, it's like you're amongst each other, you're amongst your team, the people you're comfortable with, and your coaches. So you're practicing amongst who you're with, who you're going to be playing with, your teammates. And practice is more like in a sense, like a scrimmage game, just a free game.
yeah, yeah.
But the real game, when you playing against the opponents, the reps is out there, and you have people in the stands. It's like that worked in practice, but you're gonna have to translate it and make it work under a high pressure situation.
Mm, yep.
So I say all that to say a lot of what I do is I just kind of practice with myself and just be like, okay, let me learn from this mistake. Let me look at what can possibly happen. It's kind of like before you engage your mouth, engage your brain.
Mm,
Before you act, think. So a lot of times I have to practice thinking first before I say something or before I do something. So it's just constantly preparation. Okay, when I did this the last time, this was the result. Do I want that result again? So sometimes it's simple as just taking a couple of deep breaths
there we
and
go.
just saying, you might want to react, but if you look at the big picture, if you look at it for overall for what it is it really worth reacting
Exactly. Exactly. That's yeah.
that way?
You right on. Yeah, you right on point. Right on point. Yep. Exactly. And
Yeah,
I like how you said breathe. At first you were saying prayer, definitely. But yeah, focus on what's important. Focus on the heart. What's the
yeah,
heart of the person. You know, and that's what I learned when me and my wife was, you know, training to be marriage counselors. Um, that was a big thing. Was just like don't focus on in marriages definitely, like don't focus on the behavior of your spouse or the person that's you know irritating you or whatever,
hmm,
but focus on the heart of that person.
exactly. And I know one minister that's been married for a while, he said this. He said one of the best ways as a man that you can get respect from your wife is how you respond when she disagrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
He says, are you going to, for peace sake, just go along to get along just to keep peace? Or if you know you're right, stand your ground. He says you don't have to be disagreeable or argumentative, but if your conviction know what you're saying is right, sometimes you can't give in.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he says that builds more. I forgot. He says that actually builds more trust and a security in a woman because she knows that she has a man that's gonna stand for what's right no matter what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just, and I mean, it's submitting. You submitting yourself to God. If you do,
Yeah,
it's just like you're gonna have God's heart. You're gonna have His eyes.
yeah.
You're gonna react like Jesus will react. That's that's what it's all
Mhm.
about.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, and I like how you said practice. Yeah, practice before the session. And
Hmm.
seeing the big picture. That's yeah,
Yeah.
good. So and then questioning, stay out of an excessive questioning mode. So
Hmm.
too many questions too fast can be taken as confrontation with resistant
Yeah.
clients. So yes, we ask questions, but not in an intense, threatening manner. We want to avoid getting sucked into the client's stuckness.
Hmm.
Yeah, just watch out for that. Just firing questions back to back to back. There's some questions you got to ask, and then just be like, just have an open-ended question, and just let them expound on that one question even more
Hmm.
instead of firing, different questions at them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. They don't want to. You don't want to make them feel like they're under interrogation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then not maturing, so traits of immature clients that can cause resistance: melodramatic, childish, impulsive, impatient, dependent, entitled, egocentric, opportunist, insensitive, dishonest, rude, careless, needy, antagonistic, selfish, inappropriate, pushy, suspicious, short-sighted, moody, unfocused. So, you may see a little bit of this, but if they stay in that state, of immaturity, that's big time resistance right there. And I'm talking about if somebody is this way, like somebody's just, uh, let me see, let me pick one of them. Of course, inappropriate. Just inappropriate for months on months on months. You're like, all right, you have to just move that person along or whatever, because it's just like it gets to the point of being just disrespectful at a certain point, you know. And that's what we talk about. Like maybe that client's not for you, you know, when it's like when it's somebody's reaching your threshold as a person, and it's just like, man, they're not even, showing me any respect, that type of thing. And it's just like, all right, this person has to move along, to another coach.
Yeah, yeah,
Not speaking into them, and they're just being totally rude or disrespectful. It's like,
yeah, yeah. And one of the things I know you have to learn too is humility. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not there. It's just like,
yeah,
all right, you got to move on. I'm not gonna be. I might lose my license if you stay.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like I'm talking from a coach's perspective. What's more important, helping the client or you being right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about helping that client, man,
Exactly.
and that client.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so
And you learn
mature,
about yourself.
exactly. And then maturing right here, there are 4 areas of maturity that we want to foster in our clients: mental, a person that challenges their beliefs and attitude; spiritual, a person that has faith and informs their life; physical, a person that takes care of their health; and then emotional, a person who controls emotions. That's what you want to get them to a state of maturity. And customizing coaching is not a one size fits all program. So coaches have to look for signals or clues in client conversations and customize the process. And so, how we looked at the breakthrough model, all those 10 weeks. It's just like, okay, how are we going to structure our next sessions, kind of based on this, what they're talking about, what they need. Are we going to focus on obstacles? Are we going to focus more on the vision? What are we going to focus on that this client needs? So just know every client is unique, and they require their own unique process to get them where they want to go. The coach must be willing to actively listen, analyze, and be ready to change direction when necessary. We'll do one more one more practice right now before we end this class. So uh let's hop into it. So one more coaching scenario. And I could read through it. So, coach, what can we talk about today? The client says, I have this situation, as you already know. Let's see. So this is woman talking. I'm gonna switch it to being the guy. So I have this situation, as you already know. I broke up with my girlfriend about 6 months ago, and it completely caught me off guard. She sent me an email about 3 weeks ago saying she's coming back to town and wants to get together for coffee. It took me a while um, to figure out if I want to go or not, but I will let her know that it will be fine. Then she never emailed me again. I had allowed her to store some things in my basement, and I don't know what to do with them. Coach says, so you want to figure out what to do with her stuff. What kind of outcome do you want from this conversation? Client says, I want to clarify to know what the right thing to do is after 6 months. Why do you think you want to know the right thing to do? Client says, well, because I sort of feel responsible for giving her stuff back. On the other hand, she she's kind of a jerk, and I still have a lot of resentment towards her. So where'd you go? Where did you go from here? Or you got some comments towards this situation?
Over it again.
Or we keep going. Let me read the next part. Maybe it help.
Oh, it's still part of this one?
Yeah. I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So next part is coach says, how will you know if you figured out what you need in this conversation? Client says, I guess by having clarity at the end, a plan of action of what to do with her belongings. Great. Let's definitely work toward a plan. You're not happy with this lady, and she's in your life again. So how does that feel? I'm a little bit confused. I thought I had resolved everything, but then the email came about coffee. I started realizing I still feel pretty upset about what happened between us. Coach says, what do you think is making you so angry about it? Client says, I just didn't feel that she ended it right. I feel like she could have been more respectful of our relationship. I feel like I never got to say what I wanted to say about it. Coach says, why don't you think about calling her or getting together for coffee and using that opportunity? What do you think? Client says, oh, yeah, I actually started thinking I should go so I can really tell her what I think. And that's a great idea. Coach says that sounds great.
Yes. Now, one thing that caught my eye,
Mhm.
and when the coach said, "Why don't you think about calling him or getting together for coffee or using that opportunity?" What do you think? Now, with that fall, that particular paragraph that the coach wrote, does that sound more like, in a sense, giving advice or counseling versus the traditional coaching? That particular one right there.
Exactly. Exactly. So this coach is in the wrong. This coach is in the wrong. You caught it. So it's like how, and plus you see it says why. You know, we try to avoid those why questions. So this kind of tricky. This is a tricky coaching scenario.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to give advice and you don't want to say why. So how can we rephrase this to get them to say, you know, kind of say that answer?
Hmm, that's a good one. Have you thought about calling him?
Yep, yep, yep. That's good.
Would you be okay with calling him? Calling her? Would you be okay with calling her?
Yeah.
Or would that still kind of fall under? Would that still be like another? Well,
Well, it's like a
uh,
yeah, because that's like a yes or no question. So you gotta think of like what open-ended question can you ask, or a question after that to be kind of open-ended after they say
yeah,
yes or no.
yeah, yeah. Because the key is letting them come up with their own answer. Would you be open to calling him? Calling her?
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Because I would
Yeah.
say calling is a good idea, but when you say calling is a good idea, it's almost like you're making a suggestion.
Mhm. Yeah. Or you say what other ways can you get in contact? Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that one.
What other
And
ways
that,
are you willing to get in contact?
wow, that's, yeah. Because I guess I was just so stuck on the word calling.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But you brought it out about other ways of getting in contact.
yeah.
And you have to understand, I'm thinking from a dyslexic standpoint.
Oh, you good.
Yeah.
But no, that's good that you caught that. Let's see if there's any other parts in here uh, that the coach was not good.
So you want to figure out what to do with all his stuff, all her stuff. What kind of outcome do you want from this conversation?
And then look, there's another why question right here.
I see.
Yep. So how we rephrase this part right here? So client says, "I want clarity to know what the right thing to do is after 6 months." And the coach said, "Why do you think you want to know the right thing to do?" So how we rephrase that instead of saying why?
Let's see. How would you go about getting that clarity?
Yeah. Or like how, yeah. Or rephrase a little bit. How would this bring clarity for you? Yeah. And then let them talk. That's an open ended right there. Open ended question. And just let them talk. And they could say the same thing, or it could change up because of the way that you asked the question. Because they kind of went deep into their feelings the way the coach asked the questions on this one. But if you ask how, I think it would have went like more strategic route of like, oh, moving forward route instead of diving into a pit right here that the client did. Like when the coach asked that why question, it kind of got negative
Hmm.
after that. Got kind of,
Yeah.
and that's what we said. Asking a why question is kind of it's real risky because people could get like deep into their feelings, digging into you know pulling out some negative reasoning and all that type of stuff. When you ask why, when you ask how, just like oh, they start thinking forward and thinking like okay, being above the situation, getting past the situation. Okay, but no,
And
oh, you got something else?
yeah, I was okay, let
Oh,
me
go back to
see.
this one.
Uh, where were we? Okay, the resentment part. Uh hmm, ow. I was about to ask, but that wouldn't be I was gonna say, oh, forgot what I was gonna say.
Mm.
I was thinking about how would we work on resentment? How would we work on what's a good word? Eliminating the resentment.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Like you're working, trying to turn that light on for them a little bit more. You kind of call and you kind of, mirroring back and kind of repeating back what they said. That kind of helps people too, clients too, and repeat it back
Yeah.
because it
And I
makes
wanted to
it
ask, would this
reset.
be would I be out of pocket for saying this? And the reason I ask, how can we eliminate resentment? My reason for asking that question would be is you're really not responsible or you're really not in control or in charge of how another person acts, but you can choose your response or your reply.
Yep, exactly.
And it kind of took me back to the scripture to where it says a soft answer turneth away wrath.
Hmm. Yep, yep. All right, so that's good. That's good. So this was a tricky one. This was a tricky one. You made it through. All right. Any last questions? Yeah.
Yeah, just on I don't want to use the word think on the spot, but
Mhm.
what would be some techniques and ways that I can use the nuances of the culture? Because I admit, well, I think one of the things that might hurt me is I probably won't be the most polished coach,
Mhm.
but I would be kind of doing things straight from raw from the heart.
Yeah. And that's fine. You got your own technique. All of us is different coaches. And you'll figure out what your coaching style is, as you go through the different sessions. And so just be mindful of like you're not gonna be just like, just like I'm coaching or just like your wife may be coaching. You're gonna be totally different. You're gonna be your own type of coach. And the best way is
Okay.
what you said, as long as you're talking, from the heart, you're caring about the people that you're meeting with, uh, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be just fine. And then you got the resources on the portal, and I'll go to this. Is you have all the different resources on the advanced resources on the portal that you would go to as well. So you utilize those resources at your hand that you have, you know. And I sent you those 100 questions as well that could help you, in your sessions. So you can just, read through those questions and you could have some just ready to go, you know. And like you said, preparation, that's key right there. So take time, look in the portal, look at all the resources, look back over the class notes. Um, and then the main thing, after that is just not being fearful and hopping in and doing it, serving those people you're supposed to be serving.
Yes,
That's what it's about.
yes.
That's what it's about.
That's the key, servanthood.
Exactly. And so people are out there that need this training that you have right now. They need it in their life. So you have people that come around you, your sphere of influence or whatever, that's gonna need this. So I just pray that you pour into these other people, man, these people that need it. That's what it's about. That's why I'm doing it. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this all for you, man. To
You don't know how much I appreciate this, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. I
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm just glad you're here. Glad that you made it through the main certification. You made it through advanced certification. And then now it's just like you taking that step, you know, and letting people know that you're officially a coach right now. You're officially advanced coach, a biblical life coach. Um, so you're gonna, once you probably get some ads going, all those type of things. But you may see somebody at like a networking event, something like that, or somebody at work, that possibly needs this. So don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, let's meet, just one on one and just talk, and then boom, we're gonna be using these techniques, what you learned.
Yeah. Is business card now? I know we're in a different time now, but would you say business cards are still effective?
I would say so. I would say so. Uh, and there's different types of business card. You got the physical ones, and then you got the one where you just could have the one card and you tap somebody's phone with it, and it gets your information onto their phone. Uh, so it just depends on what you're doing. So especially at a networking event, you had a networking
Okay.
event, people got cards. Uh, if you're, I mean, just out and about, like, oh, you know, you just talking to somebody randomly, you gotta give them a card. Um, Other
Mhm.
than that, if you have a website, you just let them know if it's a simple website, just let them know what your website is and they go to that, you know, and book a session with you, that type of thing. Uh, but like with your ads, you would be doing like those 15-minute interest sessions or whatever, or you could call them consultations, something like that. Um, so you could have, establish those where you get people
Where
that's
they go to like calendar and then
Calendly, yeah,
schedule.
Calendly.
Yes.
Yep, yep. And that's what I said. If you book some time with me, my wife, and her sister, we could set you up. Get you started in those sessions. Um, so I could send you. That's my next thing. I'm gonna send you and Mike that information about that to get business up and going, or if your business is already up and going, just tweak it or whatever you have to do. But yeah. But I know you're talking about you want to get fully up and going, fully set up. So yeah, I'll send you that info so you can do that. Let me stop sharing.